Welcome to the show where experts teach all about welding knowledge within reach. Seasoned educators sharing their skill, helping you learn with passion and will. Whether you're starting or want to advance, this podcast gives you the perfect chance to master the craft of doing it still right, with guidance that makes the future bright. To my friends, stone fraction to the perfect chance, from us to the craft of joining still right, with guidance that makes your future bright.
Good evening and hello. This is the first in a series of podcasts that we at the National Center for Education and Training are going to provide for welding educators. We're here tonight with me and Mr. Tim Baber, who will be hosts of this podcast. Hopefully we'll have a few more podcasts for you to enjoy in the future. I'm Rick Polanin, and I'll introduce my co-host, Tim Baber. Tim Baber is at the College of the Canyons, and he is the chair of advanced manufacturing and welding technology at the college. Tim, how about telling us a little bit about you and your program?
Well, I've actually been at the college now for going on almost 25 years. Seems like I just started the other day, and it's love my job there at the college because I get to do exciting and new things, and busier than a one-hour paper hanger running two different programs. So, on the welding side, we have a pretty well-rounded program, serving, our local community and students, obviously in our area, and also industry. So we do the core groups, flux core, MIG, TIG, shield metal arc welding, all of that, plus robotics. We do have a laser program as well. One of the reasons why we came on with Weld Ed is because of our laser welding capability. So we have, really nicely outfitted laser lab. We also do dual enrollment. So we have in a local high school where it's a beautiful new facility where we're doing, our college classes during the high school days. So we've had great success with that. Lots of students, wait lists. It's a great problem to have, but we just don't have enough capacity there. So and then our advanced manufacturing side, we currently are in a interim site, but we have the manual up to 5-axis machining centers. We've got a lot of brand new equipment in regards to where we're going in that area. So we have machine tending, robotics, precision measurement, all of that. And then the college is working to develop their permanent advanced technology center, which will be 80 to 90,000 square feet, where our current welding program on the Valencia campus will move into that space, along with additive subtractive manufacturing, precision measurement, mechatronics, and a couple of other programs as well. So that's probably going to be within the next 3 years before we get to occupy, but really exciting stuff's going on at the college. And as Rick said, Weld Ed partner for many, many years, serve on several committees with the American Welding Society, also serve as a test site supervisor, administrator at the college for our accredited testing facility for the American Welding Society for the Certified Welder Program. And then we're one of the very few accredited testing centers for the CRAW, Certified Robotic Arc Welding Program.
Tim, we know you're at the College of the Canyons, but where is that geographically located in relationship to Los Angeles?
Yeah, we're probably about 30 to 40 miles just north of LA. So we're kind of sandwiched into, we're still on the outer areas of, the LA jurisdiction. But we serve, pretty large area in Los Angeles, Antelope Valley, close to Ventura. So if you know where Magic Mountain is in Southern California, we're just kitty corner to Magic Mountain.
It's great. So I'll just describe a little bit of my program. So I'm Rick Polanin, and I'm at Illinois Central College. I was the program chair of manufacturing engineering technology and welding technology for many years. I retired a couple of years ago to become president of the American Welding Society. So I was president of AWS in 2022. During my time as president of the American Welding Society, I also served as chair of the AWS Education and Training Committee, of which Mr. Baber is now the chair. And I'm on the Robot and Automated Welding Committee, which is D16. I've provided a lot of instruction for the AWS as well as other organizations throughout the United States, and I continue to teach at Illinois Central College. ICC is located in Central Illinois. We're in East Peoria, Illinois. East Peoria, Illinois is the home of many of the construction equipment manufacturers, including Caterpillar, Komatsu, John Deere, and Case New Holland. Many of my students will work for those companies as welders, welding technicians, and welding professionals. So, Tim, how did you get involved with Weld Ed?
That's a good question, Rick. I got a promotional flyer in my mailbox one day that said, Weld Ed, $99 training, four processes. It was at Yuba College. And I looked at that and I said, $99, wow. So Weld Ed is going to pay for my hotel. They're going to feed me. I'm going to get all this curriculum, everything that's going to be shown during that 40-hour workshop. I'm there. Why wouldn't anybody sign up? So off I went. Traveled up to lovely Yuba, California. Met Mr. Dan Turner and Joel Johnson, Weld Ed partners. Got to speaking with them after spending, that whole long week with them, and talked about my program and, what we had to offer. And I think that information got back to the folks at Weld Ed, and I got invited to come out and meet with Mr. Duncan Estep, who was the principal investigator for Weld Ed at the time. And he greeted me with a nice little Weld Ed black binder and said, you want to think about coming on? And, the rest is history, Rick.
Sure. And so let me fill in a little bit of the history of Weld Ed so our listeners can understand where we started and where we're going. So back in about 2005, there were a couple of folks who decided that we didn't have enough welding technicians in the United States. And so they wrote a planning grant to develop the main proposal that would go to the NSF for funding. Those two folks were Mr. David Dickerson, who was on the faculty at the Ohio State University, and Mr. Jim Key, who was a member of the Idaho National Labs. Both of those folks worked with welding engineers, and the welding engineers that were their students and folks that were working in industry told them that there were not enough welding technicians in the United States. And therefore, they wanted to improve the number of welding technicians in the United States by helping welding instructors produce more welding technicians and produce better education and trained technicians. So in 2006, the National Science Foundation funded Weld Ed to prepare welding technicians for the future. Since that time, we have been continuously funded and just were awarded last October funding to last 3 more years to sustain Weld Ed. And our main vision and purpose is to produce welding technicians for the industry. And we do that through a variety of methods. So, Tim, what are some of the methods that we use at Weld Ed to produce welding technicians, and how do we improve welding education through professional development?
So I think our major, benefit that we have pushed out to welding educators is our 40-hour modules, 6 or 7, I don't remember the total, from welding processes, design, robotics, metallurgy, and many others as well. And so this 40-hour immersement during, obviously during the summer months is when we usually offer them. That is what really is our cat's meow, so to speak, to welding educators. Because I mean, during that 40 hours, you're networking with other welding educators. You've got so many like-minded people, and obviously the range of the talent within that group feeds upon itself. And of course, there's the underlying, curriculum, and whether, it has a lab component, is learning all those best practices. And all of the Weld Ed partners, once again, are folks that are experts in their field and have been doing it for many, many years. And so I think the value of that is not only the networking and friends that you're going to make for life, but also getting all of that information, on a flash drive, however you receive it, to take back and to implement into your program and be able to serve students. So the outcome, the impact from this content through the instructor to the students is obviously essential for programs, especially for those that maybe are looking for good information on a TIG program, or a lot of people struggle with metallurgy. And so one of our real popular modules is on metallurgy, and we've got some great professors that obviously deliver that and bring back lab opportunities for doing labs within with minimal amount of equipment, and creating a greater impact for your students, because that's really one of the weak spots that most welding educators face trying to teach welding education. So I think, like, when you look at some of our more advanced modules, I know module 6 is really a great for teaching strategies. Dr. Polanin teaches that. Essential, I think, for any welding educator, because it's one thing to take a guy or gal out of the field and now put them in a classroom, and not having, how to teach as something that is one of the biggest problems, I think, across most welding educators, is how do you deliver that content? So you've got content matter experts teaching the content to faculty in that 40-hour class that obviously empowers those faculty attending to take that back to their campuses and emulate, copy, however you want to say it, into their classroom. So it is a very empowering experience, and the assets are lifelong to any welding educator attending our modules.
Great, Tim. Thanks for that information. I'll add just a little bit. Currently, we have 8 modules that we teach, and we also have a number of hybrid modules that are combinations of our modules. So in order, our modules are module 1, which is metallurgy, covers a variety of metallurgical concepts, including welding metallurgy and metallurgy of both ferrous and non-ferrous materials, mechanical testing, and some non-destructive testing. Module 2 is our welding processes module that covers all the major commercial welding processes, that gives the teachers who attend the course tips on how to teach welding processes, as well as an understanding of some of the concepts of the equipment, the electronics, the electrodes selection, and techniques. Our module 3 is codes and specifications. It's a module that is used to teach welding codes and specifications, and also safety. Our module 4 is a design and automation module that includes concepts of weld design, joint design, um, allowable stresses, and automation. Our module 5 is our laser module. Our module 6 is instructional design and teaching methods that teach instructors about welding theory and student learning preferences, developing strong lesson plans, evaluation, statistical analysis of tests, and tips on how to motivate students. Our module 7 is a non-destructive testing module, non-destructive testing, so that we are able to teach all of the major non-destructive testing methods, including labs. And our module 8 is an advanced welding process module that includes submerged arc, friction stir, resistance welding, advanced waveforms for gas metal arc welding, and for gas tungsten arc welding. All of those are available through our Weld Ed partners, and our schedule for modules this summer is found on our website, which is weld-ed.org, and you can find where those modules will be taught and the dates that they are taught as well. Tim, National Science Foundation is funding Weld Ed. What are we doing for the participants this year that allows them to attend our modules?
Well, I believe, Rick, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that we're paying the like we did with the full 40 hours, but we're paying for the I believe the $59 registration fee. So, and then just like with the other modules, the 40-hour modules, we'll be providing obviously a meal and paying for their hotel. You just got to get there.
Correct. Yep. So it's a heck of a deal. I have commented many times to our Weld Ed partners that I wish Weld Ed was around when I first started teaching, because someone would have handed me a large notebook with all of the information about that particular technology, the lab assignments, and oftentimes reference materials that I could use in my class. I did most of that work myself. It would have saved countless hours. And you have veteran teachers who can answer questions for you as you take those courses. So since you've taught a number of those modules, Tim, what do you think is the most important thing that your students, your instructors take back to their respective classrooms?
I think having that connection back to to the Weld Ed, obviously for the ones that I've run, it's those lifelong connections that, coming back and saying, hey, what about this? What about that? And basically having that networking that builds upon itself, I think is invaluable for anybody that attends. The interaction, as I said before, between welding educators. I mean, yes, we have veteran instructors, but it feeds on itself, just like in a regular classroom where people are bringing other experiences into the conversation. And, we learn also from the participants, other things that, for consideration as well. So I think the value in that is probably one of the most fundamental values is the networking. Of course, the content is obviously current, relative, and adaptable to existing programs. So I think to me that's the biggest value. And I've had people still contacting me after the years later after the last module that I ran with questions, especially when it comes to robotics automation, because in our program we have a robotics welding program, and so how did you develop the curriculum? What are you doing for equipment? What do you see yourself doing in the next 3 to 5 years? Because we know with, cobots and AI and all that, how are you adapting in your program? So it gives the participant somebody to reach back to rather than, just, searching nowhere. You've got somebody that's professional, you've got a network of experts to be able to relate back to.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Tim. I think that many of the students that I've had in my classes have emailed me and asked me questions. I've had students stop me at conferences and say hello, ask me how I'm doing and how some of the other folks are who attended the courses with them. I had a number of students um, who were instructors who have stopped me at Skills USA and spent some time talking about how they enjoyed the number of classes that they've taken with Weld Ed through the years. And I think it's been a large benefit to those instructors to be able to network with other instructors and discuss their problems. And certainly in our classes, since most of the students are all welding instructors, they've been able, as you've suggested, to share information about their problems and issues and solutions to those problems and issues that have strengthened their ability to deliver welding education.
Hey,
So
Rick,
who are our current partners that are participating, Tim?
well, we have Joel Johnson from North Dakota Community College. We have Jim Colton from Penn College. We have Mark. What is Mark's last name, Rick? From
Baugh?
Mark Baugh from Weber State. Obviously, Dr. Polanin, myself, and so we are kind of, obviously rounded out with, those, content matter experts teaching our classes, and we are growing. You want to talk about that a little bit, Rick?
Yeah. Um, and Tim also mentioned Dan Turner up in Yuba in California as well earlier. Um, yeah, we are trying to attract some new and recruit some new partners to do some of the work with Weld Ed. Our original group of partners were 11 schools located throughout the United States. As some of the instructors have moved on, and some of the colleges have changed administrations. Things have changed a bit. The core group of instructors is still working hard to improve welding education, but we're currently recruiting and vetting some new partners that will be able to help us continue our mission of improving welding education. We also have some professional society and industry partners. The American Welding Society is one of our professional society partners, and our principal investigator, Monica Farr, is the executive director of the AWS Foundation. The AWS Foundation gave about $3 million in grants and scholarships last year. And so, because they are one of our partners, we are able to market and distribute information about those scholarships and grants to all of our affiliates and all of our Weld Ed partners. If you are not an affiliate of Weld Ed, please go to our website, and I'll try this again and try not to mess it up this time. It's weld-ed.org. That will allow you to sign up to be an affiliate, for which you will get a quarterly newsletter and a variety of other information about our classes and offerings. Another one of our professional organizations who is a partner is the American Society of Non-Destructive Testing. We developed a series of competencies for level 1 and level 2 NDT technicians with ASNT. and we provide those to colleges as a foundation for any NDT program that they might be developing or offering. We do have some corporate partners as well. Lincoln Electric and Miller Electric are both corporate partners. Lincoln has been gracious enough to provide 110 volt welding machines to a single participant at many of our Weld Ed modules. And in the next year, Miller Electric will be featuring our curriculum development and instructional design information on OpenBook, and any instructor will be able to log into OpenBook and use our materials to improve their ability to teach. We always are looking for industrial partners as well as professional organization partners. And if you are interested in participating with us, we would be happy to talk to you at any time. Please send us an email or contact us at weld-ed.org. Tim, what about our conferences that we sponsor throughout the year? What type of conferences do we offer?
Sorry, I was unmuted. I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, Rick?
Yeah, sure.
Sorry.
We offer a couple of conferences during the year. What are the two conferences that Weld Ed helps sponsor with the AWS?
So we have the AWS Weld Ed Educator Conference at FabTech every year, usually on Tuesday. And that's a day-long event where we bring in guest speakers. Topics, could range from automation, best practices in teaching and learning. It varies between year to year. But once again, that is a professional development, as well as that we do offer CEUs for those that are looking to get those PDHs or CEUs, or whichever one that you use. So there is that benefit as well for those that need that. But I mean, the takeaway also from that is that information is made available to the participants as well. And usually there's a sponsored lunch, as well, that's included. And then also at Skills USA, there's a opportunity for presentations there. Getting feedback for some reason. But yeah, that's another event that Weld Ed supports. And once again, guest speakers bringing in relative content for welding educators that are in attendance for Skills, obviously for just in support of and helping their students compete.
Yeah, I've participated in the Skills USA conference the last few years and helped organize that conference. And we try to hold that conference at a time when welding instructors have some time between the competitions. So we generally hold it on Tuesday afternoon, and we provide a lunch for the instructors. There is relevant information that is provided to those instructors by experts in the field or those who are teaching welding. They will provide their best practice as well. The conference usually runs from about noon till about 3:30 to 4 o'clock, and it's free. So for any of our listeners who will be at Skills USA this year, on Tuesday afternoon, we'll hold that conference. FabTech is always a good opportunity to see the latest in welding equipment. And so the welding conference that we sponsor along with AWS, as Tim mentioned, is usually offered on Tuesdays, starting around 8 or 8:30. And that conference includes the plumber lecture. The plumber recipient is an AWS awarded recipient who will speak about welding education at a special lecture during our conference. This year, we are looking to have a number of excellent speakers provide information from codes and specifications, through information about educational offerings, and hopefully, if you have an opportunity and you're in Chicago during FabTech, you'll be able to attend. Tim, we also have a couple of special programs at Weld Ed. One of them is a program that we've been working on for a couple years that is a program to accredit associate degree welding programs at community colleges. Can you give us a little information about what you think that program is about and how colleges might be able to use it?
Well, I think it sets obviously a program into into more of a accountability, I think, on many different levels, the curriculum. But basically, it's a program designed for, as Rick said, for welding educators, teaching associate degree technicians, but can be applied to educators at all levels. So as somebody who's gone through the beta test version, I looked at it as kind of a process of what I've gone through for other accreditations, especially for the Certified Welder program and also for the CRAW program. So it really is a way of having somebody come in and look at your curriculum. Is it relative? Do you have, objectives, student learning outcomes, content that is current and relative to what you're teaching? And basically, looking at, if you have the core components for an associate's degree program that we feel is obviously going to benefit the students that are graduating from your program. So as I said, it was something that I felt was very beneficial to not only, my program to be able to see where if we had any missing areas of what we're delivering, but also obviously helping Weld Ed help round out this accreditation program.
Yeah, I'll add just a little bit. And when I was president of the American Welding Society a couple of years ago, I received a lot of emails. And I think the most common emails that I received were really two areas. One was, how do I select a welding instructor? What are those qualifications for a welding instructor? And two, are there any accreditations for welding programs? And really, the major accreditation body within the world is ABET. And ABET does have a program to accredit technology programs as well as engineering programs, and they can be tailored specifically for welding technology. However, the ABET process is time consuming, expensive, and rigorous. And although the Weld Ed accreditation process is rigorous and somewhat time consuming, it will not be as expensive as ABET, but it will provide good feedback to any welding program that is wondering about how that program compares to other programs within the United States. We're also working on a welding instructor certification program similar to the one that the AWS has as a CWE, or Welding Educator Certification. Our program is specifically designed for associate degree instructors and perhaps high school instructors who want to assure their administration or assure themselves that they have the appropriate knowledge and understanding of welding technology and teaching technology to be a good teacher. We're working on the certification program, and it should be complete within a couple of months. The certification program will require that potential certified welding educator to complete a few of our Weld Ed modules that will be mandatory, and a couple of optional modules that will provide them with information about welding technology that they can bring back to their classroom. Upon completion of those modules, we'll have a questionnaire that will ask those instructors about what they've learned and how they will apply the information from those modules. Prior to our evaluation of that information on the questionnaire, we will have an additional group of questions that will ask that instructor about their welding experience and their teaching experience. And by evaluating the amount of time they spent in our modules, their questionnaire about teaching technology and welding technology and their experience, we will grant them a certification as a Weld Ed welding educator. Hopefully that entire program will be out within a couple of months, and we'll provide information about the certification program in our newsletters as well as on our website. Tim, what other kind of dissemination programs do we have with Weld Ed that will help instructors get information or help their students become better welding professionals?
Well, I think, Weld Ed has done a lot of work over the years to create, however you want to term it, objectives, student learning outcomes, depending on, what campus that you're on. Everybody has a different speak for what we're trying to do at the end of the day. But oftentimes when instructors are writing curriculum, where can I get something that's already been vetted, that's already aligned with, some type of organization like Weld Ed, AWS, whatever it is, that those are free. Those are available on our website for people to obviously take and then put into an existing curriculum. Take what you want, leave what you don't want. But these are, once again, vetted objective student learning outcomes that are free to, obviously, for welding educators to use. And I think writing curriculum for a new faculty is kind of a daunting experience. So why reinvent the wheel? Why not use what, we have put together for the purposes of others to obviously incorporate into the program? I think that's just one example, Rick, and I think our website is a great resource for a lot of other resources as well.
Sure. I think one of the other things that we're going to introduce next month is something we call office hours. First Wednesday of every month, we're going to offer an hour or hour and a half of time during which any welding instructor can log into Zoom and talk to one of our Weld Ed partners about any issues or problems that would have to do from motivation to development of curriculum to machine questions to motivation to discipline, any of those types of questions that are education related or equipment related or even technology related, we'll try to answer. We'll have a couple of our Weld Ed partners available for those office hours, and we send that information out in our newsletters and by email to all of our affiliates. So anyone listening, if they're interested in office hours, please once again go to our website, weld-ed.org, and look at the time for our office hours for each month. Excuse me. New types of initiatives from Weld Ed include a instructional summit that we're going to hold for industry and welding educators to determine the skills gaps that we'll see in the future. We're looking at new technology to see how we can include that into our modules. That would include information about artificial intelligence, machine learning, cybersecurity, and new welding technologies, which might include friction stir, which is a relatively mature technology, but pretty limited market. And we'll look at some of the advanced waveforms and new technology that are being developed by the welding equipment manufacturers. So those will be included in our modules in the future, and we're going to look carefully at those to see which ones fit our modules and our instructors the best. Do we have, Tim, do we have any concluding types of statements that we'd like to make about Weld Ed at this point?
I just, once again, to round things out, I think the opportunity in this day and age as a welding educator, you've got so many choices, and Weld Ed has been around for quite some time. And I think the close association with all the affiliates, most of all the manufacturers, and having the seasoned, content mentor experts that are Weld Ed partners is such an invaluable resource that why wouldn't a welding educator want to align themselves with folks that have already pretty much done it, been there, and have great great resources to share, because that's what it's about, as Rick was saying, dissemination. What we have to offer is roughly free to those that want to be recipients of that. When you come out to our modules, we're not asking a whole lot. I think I just looked on the website, it's $49 for the workshops, for our 3-day, 4-day workshops. And we're going to feed you, we're going to house you. You just got to get there. And, why wouldn't somebody want to take advantage of that? And so go to our website, look at what we're offering for this summer. And hopefully it fits, within your schedule, because we offer them in the summer because we know that's when welding faculty are usually off their contract.
Sure, and I'll add just a little bit and say that one of the things that we want to really understand about welding education is not only the technology, but our modules also provide those instructors who participate with ideas about how to teach. Mm-hmm. We want to make sure welding instructors are not only thinking about the technology of welding or the techniques of welding, but try to understand how their students are learning and how best and efficiently and effectively to provide welding instruction. And so that becomes a very important part of all of our modules, to make sure the instructors who are there understand that the technology and the technique is only a portion of the overall learning for our students, and that our students need to be able to have the ability to adapt and lifelong learn so that they are successful in their careers and also in their lives. So that's all part of the philosophy of Weld Ed, and all of the partners try to provide that type of information to those instructors who are attending our courses. Now, one of the things that we know is that technology has changed in welding in the last few years, and really in the last 20 years, with the advancement in computer technology and the integration of computer systems into welding machines. We've had an opportunity to change the way that we actually make welds. Most of the machines that we see these days they were coming into modern facilities no longer are transformer rectifier types machines, but they tend to be inverter type machines that are software controlled rather than magnetic controlled. So rather than leaving you with just information about Weld Ed, Tim and I are going to spend just a couple of minutes talking about pulse waveforms in an attempt to get you interested in coming back to our next podcast, which will describe another technical area of welding technology. So, Tim, what do you think about pulse waveforms? What's the advantage of them?
Well, I think for for our students to learn on the advanced systems, and I'll just give an example in our program, we have all that capability on what 40 machines, and I won't drop names, but we are machines that we can. They're multi-processes. Rick said ours are all inverter based, but having the waveform and teaching students waveform, in more of our advanced classes is crucial because of industry is obviously going in that direction. So what are the benefits as far as controlling, especially for out of position work, for thinner materials? There's just a host of different benefits for learning and having waveform control. Whether it be for the manufacturer, but also most importantly, teaching students to be able to walk into that environment rather than, hey, we just had a simple CV machine in the shop that I learned at, in my program that I came from, and our instructor didn't talk about waveform technology at all. Because to most programs that are just fundamental, they don't go into that. But as we know, where AI and the technology and the waveform control is coming in, I think it's crucial that we be teaching our students to the level of being a technician, and going out of just the role of just the fundamental welder. So there's a lot of advantages, both to the student, for the local manufacturers, for students to be introduced and to learn the fundamentals and hopefully be proficient at understanding wave control and being able to operate a machine that has that capability.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And certainly in central Illinois, we do a lot of ferrous metal welding. And my estimate is is that 75 to 80% of the small diameter wire, that is 35 or 45 thousandths diameter wire, is welded with some type of pulse technology throughout central Illinois. One of the things that I've been able to do throughout my career is to work at a number of manufacturers throughout central Illinois, and I continue to do that. I think that being able to work at those small manufacturers in a consulting role provides information to my students that they may not be able to get simply from a textbook. Therefore, I'm able to provide them with some real life information and up to date information. And what I see is that the majority of the manufacturers throughout the central Illinois area want our students to understand and to be able to set up a welding machine using some sort of pulse technology from work instructions or from welding procedure as they come in the door. And therefore, our students are required during our classes to be able to weld with a variety of different type of pulse waveforms. And as Tim says, depending upon the piece of equipment, so that they are able to take a weld test at any of the manufacturers and understand how to make those adjustments on the machine to get a satisfactory or a quality weld. Um, if you if our listeners don't quite understand what we're talking about when we talk about pulse or advanced waveforms, hopefully we can explain that to you a little bit, starting out with a review of a couple of typical gas metal arc transfer modes. So, Tim, what do we know about MIG transfer modes?
Well, most people refer to MIG welding and they don't really talk about the transfer modes. The term short arc, right, is what most people think. Frying bacon, right? Short circuit transfer is what most people learn. Welding the circles, stack dimes, and they figure they're the most awesome MIG welder, that's out there. But when you start, talking about pulse, you start talking about globular, pulse on pulse, that's where usually the conversation gets a little dry. So, our conventional, short circuit, globular, pulse, pulse on pulse. This is where industry is going, and this is what students should be introduced to, and understanding how to set up the machine for each one of those. I can't tell you how many times that I'll have students that come in, maybe they've been looking at YouTube videos, maybe they've come from another program, and they'll set wire feed speed, and then they just crank up the volts up to where you would probably be in spray transfer, and they can't understand why their contact tip's burning up. So that relationship between wire feed speed volts and how those are set up. Like Rick said, for somebody to be able to come in and set a machine up correctly, understanding the difference between short circuit, pulse, globular, and then understanding the right gases that can be used, and ultimately the limitations of each one of those. Like, say, for example, short circuit transfer, great all position, but when you go into spray, now you're limited flat and horizontal. You go into pulse, now we get to go back to go all position. So there's a lot of information to convey back to students of having understanding about all the modes of transfers. I mean, that in itself is almost a class.
Yeah, certainly when I first started teaching and started welding, the vast amount of MIG welders were using carbon dioxide as a shielding gas. Carbon dioxide is a difficult gas to get a decent looking weld because of the amount of spatter and loss in the welding process. As we advanced to argon carbon dioxide gases, we were able to stabilize the arc sum, reduce the spatter, but we still weren't being able to get spray efficiently with lower argon content gases. So at 75% argon, 25% CO2, we had to have a transition voltage to get any type of spray transfer for 35 thousandths wire in the 26 or 27 volt range. Those are pretty high voltages. And therefore, as we increase the argon content to 85 or 90% argon, we reduce those transition voltages to something that is reasonable in the 23 or 24 volt range to get spray. Now, the difficulty, of course, becomes using spray, as Tim indicated, in those positions that are not flat. Gravity is never our friend, and therefore what we would like to do is to use pulse in those out of positions to control the weld puddle. So the basic waveform that we know of includes a peak current and a background current, and fluctuates between peak and background. The background allows the puddle to cool. The peak increases the amount of current, so the puddle becomes more fluid and you get more penetration. Most of us know that when we DC TIG weld, we use peak and background pretty regularly for our pulse mode. But that's not the way that the advanced waveforms work. The advanced waveforms have an initial ramp, a peak voltage, a tail out, which is the decreasing ramp, and a background voltage and amperage that provide us with the correct waveform. Now, most of our MIG machines are set with arc control or trim, and that doesn't really mean voltage and doesn't really mean current. It's the amount of energy that's actually in the arc. And therefore, it's very difficult for those students who are used to setting voltage values and wire speeds to understand that a trim or an arc control can be used to make those adjustments instead. So what are some of the applications that you can think of for pulse welding, Tim?
Well, when we have a sensitivity to distortion, because when we're using pulsing, we're not inducing as much heat into the obviously the base metal. So especially for out of position work, that we can control that amount of heat. We can obviously improve the puddle formation as well. So we have a whole lot more controllability, especially going out of position. So I think the most prominent would be, distortion, heat control.
Yeah, and certainly speed.
Yeah.
So conventional hardwire MIG at 35 thousandths wire, we're able to travel anywhere between about 15 and 25 inches a minute. If we go to some of the pulse technology, we get speeds in the 40 inch per minute range, which is astounding for the way that conventional MIG used to be. Can really, really increase that speed. Some of the other really improved applications tend to be those that are specialty short arc methods, and those specialty short arc methods will allow us to control the puddle for open root gap welding to get good fusion and good penetration across that root gap and still be able to maintain our arc across the root gap. All of the major manufacturers have a specialty cold short circuit system that allows that type of weld. And in production, that weld may be put in to the root, and then a program change would allow us to put in a faster intermediate or cap pass in the same weld joint. The other interesting waveform that is very new is a combination of a DC AC waveform for hardwire MIG welding to weld through galvanized or galvalume coatings. Those types of coatings are very difficult to weld through using the conventional standard MIG hardwire process because the amount of porosity that is produced as a result of welding through the coating. The new waveforms allow us to burn off that coating and to get quality welds without having to remove all the coating prior to MIG welding. So that was a pretty exciting waveform to be able to use. And then the final one that I'll mention is a waveform that is a dual wire pulse waveform that puts two wires into the MIG puddle for high deposition and pulses at a specific frequency to allow the weld to transfer from the wire down into the weld puddle. And that one is in competition with larger diameter wires to put more deposition in and to reduce the total amount of heat that goes into the base materials, but provide good penetration and good fusion. So all of those are available, and there are more being developed every day by the welding manufacturers. And I think it's our responsibility as welding instructors to try to keep up with those technologies. And so I'll once again say that Weld Ed does teach advanced waveform and pulse technologies in their courses. I'm teaching one of those courses this summer at my college at Illinois Central College, in which we'll investigate a variety of those waveforms and determine the metallurgical effect on those welds from the waveforms. So Tim, what else you got to say before we wrap this up?
I think not only like the waveforms that we're talking about for, semi-automatic processes, but also can be applied if you're teaching robotics. It's important to have that same fundamental, conversation, with your students and having them apply it on the robots as well, because that's where they're going to be using it as well, probably for sure. So, that integration, I think, is another thing that we're looking at in some of the revising that we're doing in some of our existing modules. Because as Rick said, I mean, the technology is just changing every day, and we are adapting to incorporate those changes into all of the learning modules that we offer welding educators.
Yeah, and so in conclusion, I think thank you for listening to us for a little bit of time. And if you have additional questions, please look at our website at weld-org. Did it again, Tim, sorry. weld-ed.org. And if you want to become an affiliate, please fill out the information. We are happy to give information to anybody who's interested in welding technology. So if you have questions, please contact us at your convenience, or even better, sign up for a class.
There you go.
Tim, you get the last word.
So I want to thank Rick for inviting me to join in this conversation today, and I want to encourage all of you to stay tuned for additional podcasts. We're going to try and keep this exciting relative to all welding instructors, and I hope to see you at one of our trainings real soon. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you all as well.